So how late back was the Spider-Man movie in development? Back in 1986, when Canon Films was the big deal, they actually had a promo reel with a lot of movies that either did not happen or didn't even come close to happening, or happened and then went on to become some of the most notorious bombs in movie history. Stuff like Superman 4, Over the Top, you name it. But in that package, there was one movie in particular that is of note in this situation here, and that was a live-action adaptation of Spider-Man.
Within this unsuspecting city, history's greatest experiment creates tomorrow's greatest superhero. Spider-Man, the movie. A live-action spectacular directed by Joe Zito, based on the characters created by Stan Lee.
So at one point they were going to do a Spider-Man movie, but unfortunately it got stuck in development hell. Canon eventually shut down, and Spider-Man was eventually licensed to Sony Pictures in 1999 after it acquired options from both MGM and all previous scripts drafted by Canon, developed by Canon Films, Carol Co., and New Canon. Exercising its option on just two of those elements, they had this multi-script acquisition, which was credited to, of all people, James Cameron, Ted Newsom, John Borcato, Barney Cohen, and Joseph Goldman, and who was the pen name of Menahem Golem of Golden Globus, and a later treatment credited solely to Cameron. And so Sony basically took that Cameron material and hired David Koepp, the writer of Schindler's List, to basically write a script for it. They had a number of different directors involved at one point. Roland Emmerich was attached to it, Tim Burton was attached to it at one point, Chris Columbus, David Fincher was attached to it at one point before Sam Raimi eventually got the job in 2000. And script went through some rewrites, and then in the summer of 2001, when people went to go see movies like Jurassic Park 3 and American Pie 2, they saw a teaser trailer for a particular movie that is coming out next summer, and that was, of course, the Spider-Man trailer that you're going to see here. A great trailer that unfortunately I can't show all of it because of copyrights and all that, but and of course that and the poster that came out around that time, a teaser poster with the World Trade Center and Spidey's eyes, had to be banned because a couple months later, September 11th happened. So that was one of those things that it's a great trailer and a great poster that unfortunately will probably not be seen on any official physical media release, but at least it's still available out there through the magic of the internet, so you can still see it out there, and I recommend checking it out because it really is a fantastic teaser trailer. But not only that, but for the time, this movie was the only film to ever reach $100 million in its first weekend, which was unheard of. I mean, the biggest opening weekend up to that point happened only 6 months ago with Harry Potter, which brought in over $90 million. I think it was around close to 91 million, if I'm not mistaken. But that was the top right there, because nobody really thought that anybody. There was really a belief that nobody could really sit in the movie theater, be in a movie theater, and have it be packed as much as it could to make over $100 million. But this movie proved that to be not the case, because $114 million on its opening weekend, which was unheard of back then. Nowadays, if your movie didn't open to $100 million, it's officially considered a flop most times. But you know, I mean, if they didn't think $100 million was going to put a whole bunch of seats in the theaters, imagine what would have happened 17 years later when Avengers Endgame made over $337 million on its opening weekend. Yeah, it was the first movie to ever reach $100 million on its opening weekend. It had the largest opening weekend gross of all time. Was the most successful film based off of a comic book, and made over $821 million worldwide. It was the third highest grossing film of the year, even though it was the number one domestic film of the year, and the 44th highest grossing film of all time, seventh at the time of its release. So, and here's the interesting thing about this: like Spider-Man made all this money. No movie came close to making $100 million until Shrek 2 did it in 2004. That's a 2-year gap. So nowadays, it's kind of common to have a movie hit $100 million or more, even $200 million or more. But back then, That was unprecedented that this movie did that, and it took 2 years before another movie even came close to topping that marker there. But that just goes to show you what the lasting power of this movie was back then when it came out. So, over 20 years later, how does the film itself hold up? Well, the story here, do I really need to tell you what it is? It's the origin story of Spider-Man. You have a high school geek, Peter Parker, played by Tobey Maguire, who gets unexpectedly bitten by a radioactive spider while on a class field trip. He then starts to feel sick and on the cusp of death that night, only to wake up the next morning feeling much better and realizing that he's got the superpowers of a spider, including climbing up walls and using web slingers to fly around New York City. Meanwhile, an experiment turns Peter's best friend Harry's father, Harry played by James Franco, the father being Norman Osborn, played by Willem Dafoe, into a supervillain known as the Green Goblin. Peter has to stop the Green Goblin from taking over the world and saving his crush, Mary Jane Watson, played by Kirsten Dunst. I mean, do I really need to say anything more about this movie that hasn't already been said? It's a really great movie. A flawed movie, yes, but a great movie, too. You know, you could tell Sam Raimi was a rabid Spider-Man fan, and when a director has such a love for something and makes a movie off that subject, most of the time the film does not usually end up as well as it should be. But with Raimi, you can definitely tell that he didn't let his love of the character overshadow what he had to do to make a great movie. And it really does show. Tobey Maguire creates this incredible resemblance of Peter Parker as both the high school geek and the radically altered superhero that he becomes, and the chemistry between him and Kirsten Dunst is very believable and very romantic at times. I mean, that scene where he's dangling upside down and she kisses him in the rain, it's just like, that's one of those iconic romantic movie moments. That's from a comic book movie, not from a romantic comedy or anything, but it's just so well done. I mean, most of the action sequences are very fun to watch. There are still a lot of things about the action sequences that are still pretty cool. The shots of Spider-Man flying across the city is well done. I mean, they still look pretty impressive for the most part. I'll get to that in just a sec. I'll get to the flaws of that in just a second. And it does move at a good enough pace where you never get bored. You get so invested in the story and what's going on, and you just really do feel the weight and the massiveness of this particular film that makes it the classic that it is. But that said, there are a lot of major flaws that hurt the quality of the movie. For one thing, there's a point in the middle of the film where the movie just stops to promote Macy Gray. You know Macy Gray, that character, is that singer who was around for a little bit here in the early 2000s, and in here it feels kind of pointless since even by that point in time, she, like I said, she was already moving out of obscurity, and nobody really ever talks about her nowadays. And another thing about the movie is that as much as Tobey Maguire's Peter Parker is very good, the big problem with Peter Parker in this movie is that he doesn't do the snarky comments like Spider-Man should have. I mean, the one scene where he actually has a snarky comment, it's so bad that even the actors on the commentary think the line is bad. I mean, it's hard to believe it took us until Tom Holland to get the Spider-Man that we've been waiting to see, a character that was well put together, but also can have the snarky comments as well. And that's why I think Tom Holland does a very good job as Spider-Man in those movies. And the scene is also the perfect segue into a lot of the biggest problems with the movie, specifically the Green Goblin. Like, Willem Dafoe is a great actor, and he could have made a great Green Goblin, but he plays it so over the top, and it's bad. It's really, really bad, but it's bad in kind of a fun way too. Like, it's ridiculous. The costume he wears is too much. It's too cheap looking. Like, it looks like something that does not exist in this world that they're setting up in. But then again, there's a lot of cheap stuff in this movie. I mean, the trailer right there, the first commercial I showed you, basically shows you that one of the scenes that was so memorable in the movie where, Spider-Man is lifting Mary Jane away from the Green Goblin's attack, and that's supposed to be. It looks like a dummy, and they had that in all the trailers, thinking that was going to be like the big moment. It was one of the big moments in the movie that everyone's going to remember. Well, they remember it for not the reasons that you think they would remember it, because it's obviously a dummy Spider-Man. It's not actually him, and it's just like, even Kirsten Dunst gets this look on her face like, this thing is not really Peter Parker. This thing is not Spider-Man right now, and like, yeah, it looks pretty bad, and there are a lot of effects in here that can look really good sometimes, but then there are some effects that look pretty bad, like cheesy bad, but also really, really bad. Like, they really thought that they were going to get away with this. Like, but going back to Willem Dafoe, I was thinking about the 1989 Batman movie, and I wouldn't be surprised if Dafoe tried to do something similar to Jack Nicholson's Joker in that movie. But the main difference is that Nicholson was playing that role over the top like the Joker is supposed to be. The Green Goblin is supposed to be over the top. He's a straightforward villain, and Dafoe, I think, really kind of ruined what could have been a great villainous role for him, at least in this movie, because he did get a little bit of a when they brought him back for Spider-Man No Way Home. that's the Green Goblin that I wanted to see in this movie. I think that was a much better representation of the Green Goblin in that movie, but in No Way Home. I think they did a better job there than they did in here, and I think that was part of the reason why they brought him back there, to kind of give him a little bit of a reconciliation and give him the role that he was born to play. But I compare Spider-Man to the 1989 Batman movie. It's a really great and fun action movie, but it definitely has a lot of flaws to it. And kind of like with Batman back then, it changed the game for superhero movies in general, specifically Marvel movies, because now this has become the norm. We get Marvel movies every single year, and it all kind of started with X-Men and Spider-Man, and then there are a few hiccups here and there that we'll eventually get to. Stuff like Daredevil, stuff like Hulk, stuff like Elektra, and then the game really changed for good when Iron Man came out, which we'll delve, like I said, we'll delve more to that when we get to that one in about 6 years' time. But Spider-Man, I think, is a great origin story for a great superhero. It was only the beginning of things to come for Spider-Man, because 2 years later they would get a sequel. But we will delve into that once we move forward into 2004. But Spider-Man, what more do I got to say? It's a classic film, well-done superhero movie for the most part. Fun, can be over the top and silly as well, but it's still a lot of fun. So.
Dr. Burr! Didn't expect to see you this soon.
A brilliant writer of murder mysteries.
Working on a new book, Mr. Finch?
Has found a way to live them out.
Oh, yeah. Feeling changes. Who am I speaking to?
And only one cop can stop him.
You don't hide from me in a town this small.
Where is she, Finch?
I have great respect for your profession. That's why I write about it.
Insomnia. Rated R. Starts Friday, May 24th at a theater near you.
So in this movie, you have two Los Angeles homicide detectives, played by Al Pacino and Hilary Swank, investigating the murder of a teenage girl in Night Mute, Alaska. After the killer witnesses an accidental shooting committed by one of the detectives, they create a plan for both parties to mutually avoid prosecution. The killer being played by Robin Williams. A very different role for Robin Williams. And one of the reasons why this movie is amazing, I mean, this is a movie where you have Robin Williams playing somebody completely off character, and not in the it's a different role from either his comedy or those Oscar baity dramatic roles that he was in. This is a role that is completely different from what we've seen him in before. He did a lot of this during the course of the decade, taking these darker movies. I mean, Depths of Smoochy is probably a good example. Depths of Smoochy was an example of going darker, but this 1 Hour Photo, The Final Cut, The Night Listener, he was even on Law and Order SVU in a very out of character role for him. Like, it's interesting to see the direction that Robin Williams decided to go with, and you know what? He makes it work. I mean, this movie, he does come off as very intimidating. He's not the goofy Robin Williams that we've come to know and love, which is not a bad thing. And I mean, that's really what I like about this, is that it's a completely different role for him personally, and he's got two really good people to work off of. Al Pacino and Hilary Swank. They're all Oscar winners, and you know, Memento was the film that introduced everybody to Christopher Nolan. This is the movie that I think showed what Christopher Nolan could do as a filmmaker, because the way this movie is shot, the way the film is presented, it's very, very unique, very unusual for a movie of this caliber. And believe it or not, it was the last time he directed an R-rated film up until Oppenheimer this past year, which is saying a lot. I mean, you could completely forget that something like, you know, The Dark Knight or something like Inception got a PG-13 rating. Inception maybe, but The Dark Knight, yeah, it's amazing how that got a PG-13 rating with some of the stuff they got away with in that one. But yeah, Insomnia really is a very good film. It's based off of a remake of a 1997 Norwegian film, which I've never seen, so I can't really say if it's any good or not. But I definitely did like this one too. Also, no, this is the only film that Nolan has not written or co-written. I mean, he's written a lot of his movies, but this is the only one that he's never written, and it's very interesting to see that, because you could definitely tell that the script overall, it's good, but it isn't that flair that Christopher Nolan usually brings to the table with his movies, and you'll see that as we go down the road here with movies coming up with his name attached to them. But if you ever wanted to see a movie where he does not have a hand in the script overall, this is definitely that film. And like I said, it's not bad. It's not bad that he didn't write the film, but it's very different than what we're used to seeing from Nolan's work when he's not involved in the filmmaking process. And Al Pacino's character is great in this movie. He's playing a character who is basically trying to solve this murder, but he can't get to sleep, and he's going through there's points where he's going through various days without getting any sleep, and even if I've been through this type of situation where I've had a day or so when I couldn't get any sleep. That's the worst feeling in the world. And I've only had that happen for one day. The fact that he had this going on for 4 days straight is, and even more than that too. It's just like I don't know how he was able to pull this off, but movie magic, I guess. But yeah, everybody in here works. You know, Al Pacino, Robin Williams, Hilary Swank. A cast that also includes Maura Tierney, Martin Donovan, Nicky Katt. A lot of good tension, a lot of good mysterious elements to it. The mystery is very good, even though you know who the killer is. You're trying to figure out how's he gonna keep doing this when they got these two detectives on his trail. It's just like they do a pretty good job of handling that. It's a very entertaining film, a role that's completely outside of the norm from Robin Williams, which I think is it's a way to go in his case. But it's a great film. It's a Christopher Nolan movie. You know what you're going to expect from it. You're going to usually get a great movie out of it. And I recommend Insomnia if you have not seen it. But yeah, definitely check it out. Insomnia.
John Anderton arrested the guilty before they committed a crime.
I'm placing you under arrest for the future murder of Sarah Marks.
Until he saw something he wasn't supposed to see.
You're in a lot of trouble, John. Of course, John.
Now, to prove his innocence,
He set me up. You can't run.
he must solve a mystery
I have to find out what happened in my life.
The FBI found something.
and defy the system.
Don't trust anyone. Just find the Minority Report.
Minority Report, rated PG-13, Friday.
Minority Report is set primarily in Washington, D.C. and Northern Virginia in the year 2054, where pre-crime, a specialized police department apprehends criminals based on foreknowledge provided by 3 psychics known as precogs. The cast includes Tom Cruise as the chief of pre-crime, along with Colin Farrell as a deputy of justice agent, Samantha Morton, Max von Sydow, and combines elements of tech-noir, whodunit, thriller, and science fiction genres, as well as a traditional chase film, as the main protagonist, played by Tom Cruise, is accused of a crime he has not committed, and essentially becomes a fugitive. And for Steven Spielberg, this was a nice return to form for him after AI, artificial intelligence, was not the movie that I think he wanted it to be. I mean, you had a collaboration with him and Stanley Kubrick, the late Stanley Kubrick, and it turned into a movie that was very much an underwhelming film, but this film in particular, for the most part, really does work. It's very stylized. It's very visually impressive to look at. It has a stellar cast led by Cruise, and Steven Spielberg really shows his ambitions as a director here. I mean, it's a really good, well-made film overall. The ending is a little bit of a cop-out, and it definitely feels like it really hurts the ebb and flow of the film. Like, it really does not feel like it's part of the same movie. I mean, when you really look at the ending of this movie, and then you look at the rest of the film, like, it really does not add up at all, but it's never getting to the point where I could say that it completely ruins the film in general. I mean, the movie is still very good for the most part. I just wish the ending was a little bit better than what they were setting up. I mean, it's a basic Hollywood ending when it really comes down to it, and, like, there are definitely a lot of similarities to this and the other Philip K. Dick sci-fi story that's been made into a great film, Total Recall, and, I don't know. Like, to me, the ending I thought really was the weak link of the final climax of the movie overall, of the final film overall. But like I said, it doesn't really hurt the ebb and flow of the movie. It's still a very solid film. The ending had been a little bit better. This would have been a classic film, and it still holds up as a really good film. Definitely one of the better sci-fi films coming out around this time, and it shows that that Tom Cruise and Steven Spielberg really can work well with each other, and they would later reteam again a couple years later with War of the Worlds too. Not the best success overall, but it certainly gives you a sneak preview of what was to come with this movie here. I recommend this a lot. Minority Report. It's a classic movie for the most part. The ending could have been better, but for the most part, it still works very well. I do recommend it.
Really? The franchise? Yes. I'm taking the bus to work. On November 8th. All the ex-cons and welfare moms look at that plan, man. All right, come on, man. How you feeling? It's a chance. Something's gonna happen. It needs to happen now. Turn it around.
What are you doing with your life that's so great? I have a feeling about you. It's going to be great.
They're calling your name.
Rated R. Theaters Friday.
8 Mile tells the story of Eminem's life through autobiographical elements where you follow a white rapper named Jimmy Smith Jr., a.k.a. B. Rabbit, played by Eminem, and his attempts to launch a career in hip-hop, a music genre dominated by African Americans. I don't know why I needed to tell you that. It's on the Wikipedia page here, and I think people can figure out what hip-hop is, but the title is derived from 8 Mile Road, the highway between the predominantly black city of Detroit and the largely white suburban communities to the north where Eminem originally lived in. And we've kind of talked about some of the more recent of the times as musicians making the jump to the big screen, and most of them have not worked out well. Of course, talking about Mariah Carey, Britney Spears, Beyonce had that role in Austin Powers and Goldmember where she actually did probably the best overall until we got to here. And I gotta say, you know, Eminem. Think about where Eminem was around this time when this movie was coming out. Now, you know, he was still a popular draw, but everyone thought that he took himself a little bit too seriously, especially when he got into a fight with Triumph, the Insult Comic Dog, during the Video Music Awards. Like everyone didn't know what to think of him. But then he makes a movie like this, and you realize this dude's got a lot of chops to him. Like, he's not only a pretty good rapper, but he's also a pretty damn good actor, because he really is the centerpiece of what makes this movie so great. It's his performance that I think really does carry the load here. And he really is a fantastic actor in this movie. Like, he really does play this role very well. And the movie is just pretty damn good. A good cast of supporting people behind him. You know, Kim Basinger, Brittany Murphy, Mekhi Phifer, all delivering very good performances. You have a great director in Curtis Hanson, who did LA Confidential. I mean, the pieces were definitely there to make this movie as great as it is, and the song "Lose Yourself" is just such a good song. Like, I still couldn't believe when this movie was coming out and it's got nominated for Best Original Song. I think a lot of people were shocked when it actually won for Best Original Song, and now Eminem is an Oscar winner too. And I like the fact that it wasn't just he wasn't there the night that they had the Oscars, because he didn't think he was going to win. I think he was back home in Detroit, if I remember that was the story back then, but. It's a great song. I mean, there was a lot of really good underrated songs that came out in that time is for the Best Original Song category, but that one was really surprising when that actually won, and it's a damn good song, and it definitely deserved to win. It's definitely something very different from what the Best Original Song Oscar usually was going for at that time, but like I said, the movie really is good, and it still holds up after all these years later, and it shows that Eminem does have some acting chops to him. He would show it in other comedies, too, like funny comedies. This isn't really a comedy, but comedies like Funny People, I thought he was really good in. He has a great cameo at the beginning of The Interview. I mean, the guy is a really good, entertaining personality. Like, he's a good musician, he's a good comedic actor, and he's just a good actor in general, too. I mean, he's got what it takes to become a really good, to be a really solid entertainer overall, and I think this movie definitely shows what his abilities are capable of here. And I do like that he never really took that to another level where he started showing up in numerous movies. Like, he would only do it in sporadic bits and pieces. Like, he kind of went the same way with Michael Jordan in Space Jam. Like, after Space Jam, it's just like, that's all I really need to do. If I find something good to come back for, I'll definitely do that. And like I said, every once in a while he comes back, but I'm glad that he took it down to just one movie to be the leading star in, because I feel like if he'd done more movies, probably that would have kind of killed the ebb and flow, or who knows, maybe he could be the next great actor. I mean, nobody really knows what happens, but with 8 Mile, he definitely shows he's got what it takes to be a good actor, and honestly, I wouldn't mind him trying to do something similar to this, another big leading role in a movie, but if this is the only one we'll get, I think it's a pretty good one to go on. I mean, it's a good film, very entertaining, very intense, well acted all around, great music, great cinematography, great writing, great direction, good cast. What more can you ask for? It's definitely one of the best movies of 2002, without a doubt.
You see these people standing, they keep peeking over their shoulders, wondering, where you going tonight? Where you going, Frank?
Don't tell me not to fly, I've simply got to. If someone takes a spill, it's me and not you. Don't bring around a cloud of terrain on my parade.
Sir, we're gonna let him get away. No call. You let him get away.
Nobody had a better radar.
Very Christmas!
I'm getting close, huh? You'll go to prison.
You're gonna have to catch me.
Catch Me If You Can is the biographical crime film based off the life of Frank Abagnale, who before his 19th birthday successfully performed cons worth millions of dollars by posing as a Pan Am pilot, a Georgia doctor, and a Louisiana parish prosecutor. His primary crime was check fraud. He became so experienced that the FBI eventually turned him in for help in catching other check forgers, and you have Leonardo DiCaprio playing Frank in this, and Tom Hanks as the FBI agent, and you have Christopher Walken, Martin Sheen, Amy Adams, and you see Elizabeth Banks in the trailer for this movie. And for the first time since 1993, Steven Spielberg had 2 movies come out in the same year that were really good, really damn good movies. There was that stretch where there'd be times when he made 2 movies and one of them was good and then the other one was not so good, like 89 is a perfect example. Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade came out, and then Always came out, which Last Crusade was great, Always not so much. And then there was 1997, where he just had 2 films that really weren't the best overall, Lost World, Jurassic Park, and then Amistad. And here he has Road to Perdition and then this movie, and I'd say that's a pretty good year for him in general. It's honestly one of Spielberg's best movies. I mean, it combines the great acting of Leonardo DiCaprio, who in 2002 really was showing everybody that he wasn't just that Titanic kid anymore. This kid can act. I mean, if anybody thought that Titanic was going to be a one-time thing for him, he was going to kind of go away, 2002, I think, was the big year that showed everybody that this guy has a lot of potential going forward, which we would see later on down the road, because you have this movie and then you had Gangs of New York last week. I mean, a year where you get to work with Martin Scorsese and Steven Spielberg, and both of those movies come out within the span of a week. That's a great way to expand your career. And Tom Hanks is doing what Tom Hanks does best. Not much more to say about him. He's fantastic as the FBI agent going after DiCaprio. Christopher Walken is really good in the movie, too. Like, he got an Oscar nomination for this, and you can see why. He really is not playing the same Christopher Walken that we've seen before. It's back to what made him win the Oscar for The Deer Hunter in the first place. Like, he really is acting his ass off in this movie, and you get to see a lot of actors in the prime of their early careers. Jennifer Garner, you see a little bit of her in here. Elizabeth Banks, as I just mentioned. Amy Adams, before she made it big. It's a great film that's an excellent homage to the crime comedy capers of the 60s and 70s, and just the intro alone makes it worth the price of admission. I mean, this is still one of the best movie intros you'll ever see, with a lot of homages to Saul Bass, the great post movie guy who used to graphic designer, movie guy, but he designed a lot of the most iconic logos in history. You know, the Geffen Records logo, the Hanna-Barbera Swirling Star logo. He did a lot of stuff for Alfred Hitchcock and James Bond. I mean, this is a great homage to his work in this particular intro, and it's still one of the best intros you'll ever see for a movie. I mean, just like Catch Me If You Can is one of Spielberg's best movies in general. It's really a fantastic film that works on so many levels, from the acting, to the visual look, to the writing, to the direction. I mean, it's one of Spielberg's best films, and one that I can't recommend enough. Catch Me If You Can.
That's not Simba. Wow!
His name is Stitch.
Oh, great! He's loose!
And he's coming to our galaxy this summer. Disney's Lilo and Stitch.
Look.
You ain't nothing but a hound dog. You ain't never caught a rabbit. You ain't no
Coming to theaters this summer.
First of all, let's talk about that marketing campaign. I mean, we just talked about in the last episode how Scooby-Doo had a brilliant teaser trailer, and one of the greatest teaser trailers of all time. But man, if you want to talk about one of the greatest marketing campaigns of all time, Disney went all in on Lilo and Stitch. I mean, having him show up randomly throughout classic Disney movies, the second renaissance of Disney animation. I mean, that was one of the greatest marketing campaigns of all time. I mean, see for yourself.
Tale as old as time, true as it can be. Barely even friends, then somebody bends. Oh, I'll be in my room. Get your own movie.
Oh, Bobby. Oh, Bobby. Hey, would you get your own movie?
I don't know when, I don't know how, but I know something's starting right now. Watch it. I was singing here.
I mean, what more can you say about that? And even the posters for this movie, where you have all the Disney characters, like, cowering in fear, like they don't know what the hell this thing is, which, even though there's been some weird designs in the Disney animated classic family, but it's this alien that's somehow the black sheep of the family. And, you know, honestly, Disney really needed to do it because, you know, Atlantis the Lost Empire came out the last summer and was seen as somewhat of a financial failure for Disney when it was released in a time when 2D animation was really starting to lose its muster because of computer animation's rise. I mean, we had Shrek, Jimmy Neutron, Ice Age had just come out. You know, it seemed like there wasn't really anything that was going to resuscitate it any sooner. And then all of a sudden, here comes Lilo and Stitch, and that marketing campaign really helped the movie in a big way because it definitely showed a different vibe than what Disney had done up to the point. But at the same time, doing something different had hurt them in the past. I mean, Atlantis was a big example, and it would still continue to hurt them. But they found that silver lining, that unique and different silver lining, and it makes it work out into this movie, Lilo and Stitch, which is just... It's one of my favorite Disney movies for a number of different reasons. You've got a story here about, you know, this little creature created by generic experimentation and bound to prison with his evil creator. So Stitch escapes and heads to Earth, where he tries to impersonate a dog and gets adopted by little Lilo, played by DeVay Chase. I'm sorry, I'm thinking Dakota Fanning. No, this is DeVay Chase. Even though Dakota Fanning did play her in the sequel, the official direct-to-video sequel, Lilo and Stitch 2. But, so he gets adopted by Lilo, who, bent on self-preservation, he plans to use a human shield to protect him from the aliens sent to recapture him. But without a greater purpose in life, no friends, family, or memories, Stitch does a little soul-searching and begins to understand the meanings of love and family, and his feelings for Lilo begin to change. You know, the main focus of the movie is Ohana meets family. That's the main line of the movie. Ohana meets family. Family means nobody gets left behind or forgotten. Butchered the line right there, but... This wasn't, for Disney, it was a huge step in the right direction. After a couple of little misfires, Lilo and Stitch was definitely more of a welcome return, combining two really great, wonderful characters. I mean, Stitch, I think, is my all-time favorite Disney character. He still is my all-time favorite Disney character. I mean, you know, you ever seen that Scooby-Doo crossover with Supernatural, where one of the guys is saying, like, I take a bullet for Scooby-Doo, and, like, I take a bullet for Stitch, man. Like, that is, he's the perfect little collaboration of everything. Like, he's a perfect creation. Like, he's a lovable creature. Like, he looks very well done. Like, he's a lovable creature, but he's also a maniacal killing machine. Not killing machine, but a maniacal violent machine. Like, it appeals to everybody. It appeals to the ladies. It appeals to the guys. Like, if you want to, like, it appeals to the boys and girls. Like, he's a character that really meshes together so well, and he's just a fun character to watch. Like, Chris Sanders does a very good job of playing the character in the movie. I mean, you really do get behind this character on both sides. You want him to find his purpose in life, but you also don't mind him when you see him doing these ridiculously insane, over-the-top action sequences in here. And it's hard not to love this little guy. He's still my favorite Disney character of all time, and you got a really solid story here. A lot of good relationships, not just between Lilo and Stitch, but also Lilo and his sister, who are trying to, you know, it's a great movie where it shows the love and family between the two of them, because they lost their parents, and the older sister is trying to be kind of a motherly figure to her, but their relationship really is not that easy to put together, and the movie does a very good job of handling that. I think DeVay Chase and Tia Carrera do a very good job of creating that nice little chemistry there. There's even some good chemistry between the two aliens, Jumba and Gantu. No. I'm getting all these names screwed up here. Jumba and Pleakley, good lord, played by David Ogden Stiers and Kevin Kevin McDonald, good lord, I'm getting all these names screwed up here, but I like their chemistry as they're trying to bring Stitch back to justice. David Ogden Stiers and Kevin McDonald, I think they're very good. The one person I was trying to talk about before, Gantu, the villain played by Kevin Michael Richardson. I mean, the design is cool. That voice for Kevin Michael Richardson just fits that character so well. He's a fun villain. Like, he's a fun bad guy. Like not the typical Disney bad guy, but like a bad guy that, like, you can kind of get behind him too, because he is trying to do something legit. He is trying to essentially, he's trying to do his job. Like, he's supposed to go. He's supposed to make sure that this thing does not get away from him, and yet every time he tries to get close, they get away from him. It's just like there's a lot of fun factors about this movie all around, and like, maybe it's because I haven't seen this movie in a while that I have completely forgot. I completely messed up a lot of the names in here, but it's a really good movie. A lot of great relationships going on all throughout the film. A lot of good laughs, some really good animation, mixing in some nice watercolor effects. A great score by Alan Silvestri, who I think is probably one of the best, top 5 greatest composers of all time, because, of course, he did Back to the Future, of course, he did Avengers, Roger Rabbit. This is definitely another winning score for him, and it's just a really good, fun ride on so many levels. I mean, a classic Disney movie on so many levels, featuring my all-time favorite character. It's hard not to love Stitch. It's hard not to love this movie. Lilo and Stitch, brilliant, brilliant film. Easily the best film of the week, so...
One film pushed the limits of where a romantic comedy can take you and won the prize for Best Director. Punch Drunk Love, chosen as the centerpiece of this year's New York Film Festival. Rolling Stone declares Adam Sandler brings grit and grace to a funny, touching, scary romance.
This is funny. This is nice.
From the director of Boogie Nights, Punch Drunk Love, rated R. Now playing in select theaters. Check local listings.
Paul Thomas Anderson, returning after directing Magnolia. Adam Sandler stars in the movie as an entrepreneur with social anxiety who falls in love with his sister's co-worker, played by Emily Watson. The cast also includes Philip Seymour Hoffman and Luis Guzman. This film is most notable because it's Adam Sandler's first major dramatic role, and was basically the launching pad for him to do something outside of his usual mainstream comedies, and just goes to show you that the guy knows what he's doing. Unfortunately, the dumbasses of America didn't go see it because they bombed hard at the box office. Thus, Adam Sandler was forced to go back to making comedies for a good chunk of the 2000s, which is a shame because this is a really good movie, and it's good because Adam Sandler can really act. We've seen it now with Uncut Gems. We saw it with Hustler. We saw it recently with, like I said, Uncut Gems, but he's also done a lot of good dramatic stuff and criminally underrated stuff in Reign Over Me. He was one of the few things I really like about Men, Women, and Children, even though that was not a good film, but the guy shows that he has a lot of acting chops, and just, you really wanted to see him do more movies like this instead of those lackluster comedies that he's most notable for. But it's just a great film. He's terrific in the film, leading a great cast. The visual appeal of this movie is unbelievably good. Robert Ellsworth does a very good job with the cinematography. The music by John Bryan is top-notch. It's a film that I love so much. Easily one of my favorite films of the year. Probably my favorite Paul Thomas Anderson movie ever. If you have not seen Punch Drunk Love, do yourself a favor and go check this movie out. You are missing out on something special.
The Bourne Identity is the best spy-thriller in years. You've got a black accent in South reservation. That's the mind-blowing concept that rivals the French connection.
Next up, we have The Bourne Identity, the movie that kind of launched what the Jack Ryan franchise kind of dropped down to with The Sum of All Fears. I mean, this became kind of what eventually became the new cool action franchise to do. I mean, Jack Ryan had a number of different great films over the course of the 90s, but then fell apart with The Sum of All Fears. But this was a nice pace, different pace for what the Jack Ryan films were accomplishing around that time. You have Jason Bourne, played by Matt Damon, suffering from psychogenic amnesia and is forced to fight to unlock his identity and his mysterious connection to the CIA. This is, of course, based off the Robert Ludlum stories of the same name. And this is filmed with a little bit of an interesting production history. There was a lot of things going on behind the scenes. The creators consistently clashed with the studio executives over the delays, the cost of the movie, the last-minute changes, the unexpected reshoots. I mean, this thing went through a lot of production problems, kind of like what happened with Scooby-Doo, except in the case of Scooby-Doo, that movie ended up being not great. this movie actually ended up working out pretty well, all things considered. I mean, it certainly is considered to be one of the most influential action movies of its time, and it helps having a great leading performance by Matt Damon in the role of Jason Bourne, where he makes it work so well. The casting overall here is great. Franco Potente, Chris Cooper, Clive Owen, Brian Cox, Adewale Akinmu Agbaje, who of course went on to become Killer Croc in Suicide Squad. I mean, just a really good cast overall here, and it's interesting how they almost went crazy with the casting on this movie. This thing has been in production for a while now, and and when they were casting the film, Doug Liman went to like various different people. Like he went to Brad Pitt, who turned it down to do Spy Game, and then Russell Crowe, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Tom Cruise, and Sylvester Stallone were eventually considered. I mean, different ranges in age there. I mean, Russell Crowe was probably the youngest of that group. Tom Cruise is somewhere in the middle, and then Schwarzenegger and Stallone were probably the oldest. So it's probably a good thing that they didn't go with one of those guys. Even though I like all those guys. I like Arnold Schwarzenegger. I like Tom Cruise, Stallone, Russell Crowe. It was clearly too late for them, obviously. But Matt Damon made the role work well. He perfected the role of Jason Bourne. He makes him a very convincing character out of him. You really do believe in his cause. You really do believe that he wants to know what the hell's going on, and he's willing to do whatever it takes to make sure that he finds a way to figure it all out. And in the way that it's done here, it's very well done. The action sequences, phenomenal. Some of the best car chases you'll see in any action movie started with this film, and would follow with the films by Paul Greengrass, and then of course with the other films in the series. This is a great film. It's a really solid film, a very entertaining film, a very engaging mystery. I mean, this really became the influential action film for the rest of the 21st century. And the Bourne movies kind of followed in the same path as the Jack Ryan movies, honestly, going back to Jack Ryan. You have 3 really good movies to start it off, and then you have that one little film that just takes it on a downward spiral with the Bourne Legacy, the one that doesn't have Matt Damon in. And then Jason Bourne comes around, the last film of the series, and actually turns that series around again. I know a lot of people didn't like the last Jason Bourne movie, but I liked it a lot. But that one and this one are certainly not the best of the Bourne movies. We still have to get to the other two, the Bourne Supremacy and the Bourne Ultimatum, before we get to the best one of the series. But the Bourne Identity, man, the Bourne Identity is a fantastic film. If you haven't seen it, you're really doing yourself a huge disservice by not doing so.
Hi, I'm Charles.
Hi, Jessica.
Skies blue.
So, Charles, what about you?
I don't know, I do okay. Actually, I just met somebody pretty special.
Oh.
Her name's Michelle, and it's early, but,
I thought you were single.
is this supposed to be a setup?
When she walks.
Jessica Stein thought she'd run out of options.
I go out with a lot of girls. A lot. We split the salad, but I think ate a little bit more.
Sorry, I'm so late.
You are right on time. Until she realized
Oh, that's women seeking women.
there was one more thing to consider.
Whenever I thought about lesbianism in the past, I've always said ew. You know, just ew.
She is trying new things.
Who's the guy?
There's no guy. I'm gonna have to go slow, okay? Oh, okay.
You're a terrible liar.
Trust me. There's no guy.
Now,
She's just working out some residual anger from college.
between the man who's perfectly impossible
You guys went to college together?
We dated for a year.
Is everything okay? You don't seem like yourself lately.
You don't either.
and the woman who's possibly perfect,
If we keep going like this, we'll get there in 2 weeks or so.
There's no real rush.
How about 10 days?
10 days is better.
she's losing her mind
It's not me. It's not me. Do you find me disgusting? No.
Oh my God, she's hitting. I'm impressed.
to find her heart.
She's a girl, you know? She has thin arms.
I don't know what she sees in her mother. She's flat-chested. I've kissed a girl. Oh my God.
Fox Searchlight Pictures presents the movie the Los Angeles Times calls outstanding, romantic comedy at its sharpest and most sophisticated.
What is it about 2 women you find so exciting?
The way they touch.
Really? How do they touch?
What I'm wondering right about now is, do you want to dinner with me tomorrow night?
Everyone wants to be kissing Jessica Stein.
What does your therapist say about all this?
Oh, I could never tell my therapist.
Why not?
Because it's private.
This is a really, really damn good movie. It's one of those movies that I came across out of the blue. I'd heard some small things about it, and I saw it at I think I saw it at a CD warehouse on DVD, and I picked it up. It was only like $10. And I thought, maybe I'll check it out. If it doesn't work, I could just go back there and get another DVD at some point. But I'm glad I did, because this movie really is really well done. You have Jessica Stein, played by Jennifer Westfeldt, who's actually married to John Hamm, as you see in the trailer there. She's a single, straight, successful journalist, part of a bonded Jewish family living in New York City, who finds herself not as straight as she thought she was when she meets and begins an intense friendship with a career woman named Helen Cooper, played by Heather Jurgensen. And it ultimately leads to romance. And there's also a little bit of a love triangle with a guy that she used to date. And you wonder where the film is going to go from there. But luckily, the film goes to a level where it's really a good, fun, lighthearted comedy. But it also uses a same-sex marriage in a very positive, a same-sex relationship, I should say, in a very powerful light. And it's a really well-done film. Apparently, this was, from what I remember, this was based off of a scene that these two did in a 1997 off-Broadway play called Lipstick. And like I said, it's one of the early film appearances of both John Hamm and also Michael Showalter. But you also have some notable names in there, like Jackie Hoffman, somebody you've seen in a lot of TV work. You also see, who else? Idina Menzel also has a cameo in here as a bridesmaid. A lot of legitimately good talent in this movie. And like I said, it does a very good job of making this relationship between Jessica Stein and the two people that she has a connection with, the guy that she used to date, and this woman that she kind of feels like that maybe there's an opportunity for a relationship there. It's done in a very positive light, and nothing about the movie ever feels forced. Like, I know when this movie came out, there was a lot of people that thought that, especially from the LGBT community, that thought that it didn't deal with the death of being openly gay, but it was still praised for the way they handled the movie very well here. And this is back in 2001, where it was kind of hard to make gay and bisexuality in general work without going a little bit too stereotypical. I mean, Will and Grace, In Living Color, like there was a lot of shows that did these gay jokes that most of the time it was gay people were either flaming or they really weren't really portrayed as as a normal person would be portrayed as. And while there had been definitely some movies where they actually did make it work in the past, like around this time, it felt like they were trying to okay, we got to put gay people in a better light here. And I think this movie is a really good example of that. And it just makes you wonder why Jennifer Westfeldt never really had a successful career after this. We all saw what happened with John Hamm after this point. Like, she's only been in a couple of shows every once in a while. She'd show up on Grey's Anatomy or on This Is Us or Girls or even on Younger. But she hasn't really reached that star power level like she had, like a lot of people around is in that same area would have been in. Like, she's not like a Jennifer Aniston or a Julia Roberts, where she starts her career off through television and then slowly but surely becomes the movie actress that we know her as. And with her, it's just kind of like she's just been kind of doing like little things. She's been sticking mostly on the indie circuit. She made a really great underrated film from 2012, Friends with Kids, which I actually really like a lot, and I do recommend checking that one out. That's another great underrated movie. And the movie overall is very funny. Like I said, it works because you like the relationships between Westfeldt and Jurgensen, and also Westfeldt and Scott Cohen, who plays the guy that she may or may not still have an interest for, even though they didn't date for a while. But the movie really is very solid stuff. It's a very well-made film. It's a very funny film. You do like a lot of the chemistry between the leading actress and the two people involved in throughout the course of the film. It's a very fun, lighthearted comedy, and it works very well. It's a very creative movie. It does a lot to really entertain people, and it's a really well-made film, and one that I don't think a lot of people really know about. And, I mean, I think this is one you really should check out. If you want to see a movie where you have gay people being seen in a positive way that doesn't feel like it's being forced onto you, or something on the obscure levels of some other TV shows and movies around the time, Kissing Jessica Stein definitely is that movie that makes it work so well. I highly recommend checking it out. It's a very well-made film, a very underrated gem. Check this movie out. You will not be disappointed by it.
The verdict is in. Chicago is the most nominated motion picture of the year, with 13 Academy Award nominations, including Best Picture of the Year.
God, that's beautiful.
Rolling Stone is calling Chicago a sexy knockout.
You're damn right.
Spectacular, dazzling, bold and funny, exuberant entertainment.
You couldn't buy that kind of publicity.
This is the Best Picture of the Year. That's Chicago. Chicago.
That jazz.
Rated PG-13. Now.
Based off of the 1975 Bob Fosse musical, which was actually in turn based off the 26th play of the same name. It explores the themes of celebrity scandal and corruption in Chicago during the Jazz Age, where you center around Roxy Hart, played by Renee Zellweger, and Velma Kelly, played by Catherine Zeta-Jones, two murderers who find themselves in jail awaiting trial in 1920s Chicago. Roxy, a housewife, and Velma, a vaudevillian, fight for the fame that will keep them from the gallows, and also features Richard Gere playing the lawyer who is defending the both of them, and it marks the feature film debut of Rob Marshall, who also did choreography on the film, with a script by Bill Condon, who would later go on to direct Dreamgirls and then do the Beauty and the Beast remake that came out in 2017. This film was highly praised when it came out. It was nominated, as it said in the trailer, the most nominees for a Best Picture, an Academy Award nominated film that year, 13 nominations, and won 6 of them for Best Picture, and one also for Catherine Zeta-Jones. Queen Latifah was also nominated. Renee Zellweger was also nominated. I think Richard Gere was also nominated too. I could be wrong on that, but yeah, this really is one of the best Picture winners ever, because it's a film that still holds up after all these years. When I think of the Best Pictures of the year, this is the type of film that deserves to win Best Picture, because it really was the high point of 2002. The music in this movie is amazing. The visual look of the movie is amazing. It appeals to everybody. It appeals to women. It appeals to men. It appeals to everybody. Like, you can always find something about this movie, no matter who you are, no matter what a gender you are, no matter what age you are. I mean, okay, maybe not age, because anybody that should probably see this if you're over 13. If you're under 13, there's a reason why this is PG-13. But it's a film that appeals to everybody. It's a really damn good movie, and it shows that these actors can really sing their asses off. I would have never thought that Richard Gere could sing in this movie, and sure enough, he does it here when he does Give Him the Old Razzle Dazzle, which is a great song. It's just one of the many great songs featured in this movie. I mean, again, I don't think I needed to say too much more about this one. It's one of my favorite Best Picture winners of all time. My favorite movie of the year, Chicago. What more do you got?
Welcome to the Umbrella Corporation. The breakthroughs we make today will change your life tomorrow.
I've been a bad girl. Open the door!
Or as most people would like to call it, the day that the Resident Evil franchise went on this depressing low once Paul W.S. Anderson and his wife Mila Jovovich took over. Like, they take the meaning of never work with your spouse and just say, fuck it, we're going to do it anyway. And the results have been mostly terrible movies, and this is definitely one of those movies. This one is loosely based on the Resident Evil franchise, and you have a story where it follows amnesic heroine Alice, played by Mila Jovovich, and a band of Umbrella Corporation commandos as they attempt to contain the outbreak of the T-virus at a secret underground facility. And obviously it didn't go very well, because there's still 5 more films after this to go. So, yeah, it didn't really work out that well. I don't know. Like, to me, the Resident Evil movies, they fail because, A, they clearly get a guy who does not know what he's doing, does not really, he may say that he's a big Resident Evil fan, but if these movies are any indication, these movies do not really show that he is much of a Resident Evil fan. Just like what they were trying to do with a lot of video game movies back then. They weren't getting people who knew the source material, and because of that, a lot of these movies fell apart pretty quickly. It wasn't until recently, within the last 5-6 years, we finally started to get good video game adaptations, and coincidentally, most of them are family films, like the Angry Birds movies, the Sonic the Hedgehog movies, the Super Mario Brothers movie, Detective Pikachu. I mean, these are all family films, and it's not like somebody can't take this idea of Resident Evil and actually do something new with it, but even that they're screwing up with Welcome to Raccoon City, and they somehow managed to make that one even worse, even though Paul W.S. Anderson is nowhere to be found in that movie, nor is Mila Jovovich. But I've just never been a Mila Jovovich fan. I do not like her as an actress. Every time I see her in something, it's like she's trying to force herself to become the next Sigourney Weaver in Alien. It's like, take me seriously as an action heroine, and just like, she just can't do it. She can't make this intimidating look with this face that she has. And like, there are so many movies like these movies, and the Ultraviolet, and like every movie I see her in, I just can't I've never seen a good performance from Mila Jovovich, except for The Fifth Element, which came out in '97, and that was almost 30 years ago. But in this, she just really doesn't work for me as Alice. Like, she's not a convincing character. She's just there clearly because she's fucking the director. I mean, that's pretty much what they're doing with these movies. But I mean, none of these characters really are likable per se. You don't really get invested in Michelle Rodriguez or Eric Mabius or Collins or James Purefoy or some of these other actors in here. And it's clear that the movie isn't really taking the source material to T here. They're just watching little clips of the video game and saying, we can write a script around this, even though we have we never played the actual games in long form. And again, that's been part of the problem with these video game movies back then, is that they don't get people that know the source material very well. And the CG effects don't hold up very well either. Like, you would think that that'd be the one saving grace, is that, well, at least the CG effects could still hold up, and nope. $33 million budget, and the CG effects look this bad. I don't know. It just seems like a disaster on so many levels. It's not intriguing. It's not interesting. The cast is not really well assembled. The writing is terrible. The CG effects are awful. You just don't feel anything from it per se. Even the biggest Resident Evil fan would look at this and go, I can't really enjoy this movie. And yeah, it's just not for me. It's just not worth it for me. Like, none of these movies ever got any better. They just kept doing the same thing over and over and over again, and nobody really put them to task to it until it was all said and done. And even then, they're still finding new ways to screw it up. But that's Resident Evil for you. So.
For years, the signs have been appearing. This summer, their meaning will be revealed. Mel Gibson, M. Night Shyamalan's signs.
There's a monster outside my room. Can I have a glass of water?
That performance by Abigail Breslin is probably the greatest thing about this movie, honestly. You have Mel Gibson as an Episcopalian priest named Graham Hess, who discovers a series of crop circles in his cornfield, and that the phenomenon is a result of extraterrestrial life. Now, I know this movie has a lot of fans to it. Everyone thinks that the one movie that came after this, The Village, was the beginning of M. Night Shyamalan's downfall. I think this is the one that really began his downfall. This is not a very good movie. I don't think it's a very good movie. There's a lot of good people involved in it. Mel Gibson, Joaquin Phoenix, Rory Culkin, Abigail Breslin, one of her early film roles. I think her earliest film role, honestly. But the movie really does not work. I mean, it's boring. The characters are not that interesting at all. They all speak in a monotone pitch. ASMR has more emotion to it than the people that act in this movie. The aliens are not that good looking either. I mean, they're just typical generic alien designs. Like, they're not really anything too special or anything too exciting. They're just bland alien designs. There are too many scenes in the movie where nothing is going on. There's too many moments in the movie where characters are acting so bizarre and so weird, like the army guy that Joaquin Phoenix goes to talk to. Like, his eyes never look like he's always looking right at you, and his mouth never closes. It's just like he's speaking in that monotone voice too. It's just like what is your deal, man? Like, this is the show's the beginning of the downfalls of many of Shyamalan's movies. From this point onward, because all the characters are very monotone. There's trying to be more. What do I want to say here? I'm trying to say that the writing gets extremely pretentious at times. M. Night Shyamalan really is getting to that point where his ego is starting to take over big time. And like I said, there's not that much that happens that makes this movie interesting. This is a movie that's over 2 hours long. Not even that, almost 2 hours long. But still, it feels like you're sitting there for a long period of time where nothing is going on. You're just kind of like, what did people see in this movie that I didn't see? I mean, I guess the marketing did a good job of selling the film. I guess the atmospheric elements of it kind of worked in some way, shape, or form. But the execution and how it's delivered, it it ruins the ebb and flow of the movie. There's nothing about this movie that is exciting. There's nothing about this movie that's engaging, or you get involved in the mysterious aspects. These aliens can't get through doors, and even to the point where Mel Gibson has to say they seem to have trouble getting through pantry doors. Like, they can't get through pantry doors. They can't last on our planet because the entire Earth's covered in water. Which, like, why were we afraid of these guys again? Like, nothing about this makes any sense whatsoever. And it just ruins the ebb and flow of what the movie was trying to sell you on. This was the movie that made me realize that M. Night Shyamalan has a little bit of an ego to him, because after this, it just went downhill from there before it eventually slowly but surely rise back up again about 10 years after this. But this was the point where that goodwill he had built up with The Sixth Sense and Unbreakable had just kind of started to go away. At least to me it did. I know a lot of people love this movie, and I personally think you're wrong, but that's my personal opinion. But that's Signs for you. That is M. Night Shyamalan's Signs.
When danger becomes a temptation, when every move brings you closer to the edge, when you live each day like it's your last, there's a surprise around every curve. Pierce Brosnan, die another day.
Yeah, probably not a good sign that I just showed you probably the best thing about this damn movie. Pierce Brosnan's 007 run started off on a very good high note with GoldenEye. Then there was a little bit of a disappointing follow-up with Tomorrow Never Dies, and then it was followed by the mostly forgettable, but not horrible, The World Is Not Enough, which now leads us to this movie, which I could still say, even after all these years, this is still the absolute worst Bond movie ever made. How bad is it? Well, let's count the ways. Die Another Day is the 20th spy film in the James Bond series, the fourth and last one to feature Pierce Brosnan, and in this one, he leads a mission to North Korea during which he is betrayed and seemingly killed, and after seemingly killing a rogue North Korean colonel, is captured and imprisoned. More than a year later, Bond is released as part of a prisoner exchange. Surmising that someone within the British government betrayed him, he attempts to earn redemption by tracking down his betrayer and killing a North Korean agent whom he believes is involved in his torture. And, boy, they reference each of the preceding films in this movie, and there's no doubt in my mind, this is still the worst James Bond movie of all time. First of all, I mean, where do we even begin? Let's start off with the very beginning of the movie. They decided to add bullet time to the gun barrel sequence, like James Bond does the thing where he goes to the gun barrel, he shoots the gun off, but no, we just can't do that because we need to update this for 2002. I mean, no, we gotta have James Bond literally shoot the gun and then have bullet time and then have the blood come down. It's just like, I know it's a little bit of a nitpick here, but those little things that they add to this just like completely ruin the ebb and flow on this movie. And second of all, I mean, Madonna had a pretty bad 2002 with Swept Away and having one of the worst James Bond songs ever. I mean, this is an abysmal James Bond song, and Madonna is a good singer, but don't get me wrong, but this is pretty bad. Third, Bond in this doesn't come off as that charismatic, good-looking sex pod agent that he become known for. He's kind of more like Pepe Le Pew if he was a secret agent, because the way he has relationships with the main female characters in this movie just comes off as fucking forced. Like, especially with Brosnan and Halle Berry, who I thought was overall, I mean, she's trying her best here, and I feel like they were really looking for her to become the next big thing. I think they were actually planning a spin-off film with her as the main lead of it. Like, they're supposed to be the main love interest in the movie, and they share no chemistry whatsoever. And it's not really Halle Berry's fault or Pierce Brosnan's fault. It's just the script overall. And actually, now that I think about it, this kind of reminds me of how Daniel Craig was in Spectre, which that was a Bond that also felt like he wasn't that charismatic, good-looking guy that women would want to have sex with. He's trying to force those relationships onto him, and it's just like, it's just more uncomfortable than it is, you know, what we expect from James Bond. Fourth, the constant references to the previous Bond movies. They cram it down your throat. And they're not clever in any way, shape, or form. It's only done because it's the 20th James Bond movie. It's also the 40th anniversary of the character. Now, look at what happened 10 years later with Skyfall. They were able to make references in that movie, but they weren't as forced onto you as they were in this film. I mean, this is reference porn in a bad kind of way. Like, this is how you not put references in a movie. And, fifth, the story makes no sense whatsoever. How this bad guy manages to reveal these new identities are so ridiculous. Not only because the film thinks that this film literally thinks virtual reality is a way of the future. You know, a hotel made entirely of ice is a good idea, which I think Quantum of Solace kind of did the same thing the more I think about it. But you also have a giant laser beam, supposedly supposed to be the most badass thing ever. It's like, Austin Powers made fun of stuff like this, and, you know, this makes the Austin Powers movies more like the James Bond movies of the past by comparison. And that's not a good thing. I mean, this is not good whatsoever. And sixth, you can pretty much tell this movie was afraid of the two franchises we talked about before. The start of the Bourne Identity series and the XXX, which, yeah, it's the same movie, and, you know, the Bond franchise tries to show how cool it still was over XXX and fails miserably on all terms. As much as I hate XXX, I would rather watch XXX again than watch this movie. That's how bad this movie is. Seventh, the Bond films are supposed to have the best action sequences ever, and here, it's like they're not even trying. There's a whole sequence where Bond is surfing on a glacier wave, and I swear, it looks like something you'd see in Happy Feet, rather than a James Bond movie. I was surprised I didn't see Animal Logic's name in the credits for the visual effects. That's how bad these effects are. So, do I even need to say more about how bad this movie is? This is literally the definition of a bad James Bond movie. Spectre was bad, but Spectre was at least trying to do something. Like I hate that movie. It's probably my second least favorite of the Bond movies, but I at least have to give that one credit for at least trying to do something with it. And it just didn't work out the way they wanted it to, but this right here is the absolute worst. This is the Batman and Robin of the Bond franchise. It's unbearable to watch. It's not even funny. It's poorly written, poorly directed, poorly acted. It's just an all-around mess. This is without a doubt the worst, absolute worst James Bond movie of the entire series, and it's not even close. I mean, Spectre is is second, but I'm sorry, this still takes the cake. And believe it, and I've talked about this on the Reviewing Network Live, as is a week after recording this particular episode. If you watch this later on down the road, but Quentin Tarantino was going to do a James Bond movie with Pierce Brosnan only if he would come back for it. Would that have reignited the franchise? Probably not. I mean, it would have been interesting to see what Tarantino could do with a franchise film like this, but of course that didn't happen. But maybe it was, of course, obviously it was for the best, because after this we got Daniel Craig's Bond Road to start, and let me just tell you, it's already a better start to where this movie, Pierce Brosnan's Bond, ended off on. So,
throughout the ages, there has been one hero standing watch over us all. One hero protecting mankind wherever he is needed. He moves in shadows, cloaked in mystery. And now, in the summer of 2002, he will be called upon yet again to save the world. Hurry!
That is one of the greatest teaser trailers you'll ever see, and one of the greatest fake-out trailers ever. I mean, you go into Harry Potter, because that's when this first trailer came out, and you see that, and you think to yourself, are we finally going to see a new Batman movie? Because I know Wolfgang Peterson had been attached to work on a Batman movie. I think it was Batman Year One. It was either that or Batman versus Superman. But imagine being in a theater that day on November 16th, 2001, and you see that trailer come up on the screen. You think it's going to be the Batman movie, and then all of a sudden they just pull the rug underneath you, and it's Scooby-Doo. I mean, people still got excited for it because we still like Scooby-Doo, but yeah, I couldn't imagine what that would have been like in theaters, seeing that in theaters for the first time, and everyone being like, "Oh, it's not a new Batman movie." But I may have just shown you the best thing about this movie, because this Scooby-Doo movie is not very good. Not very good indeed. You have a story here that's the plot revolves around Mystery Incorporated, a group of 4 young adults and their talking dog who solve mysteries, who reunite after a 2-year disbandment to investigate a murder at a popular horror-themed tropical island resort. You have Freddie Prinze Jr. as Fred, Sarah Michelle Gellar as Daphne, Matthew Lillard in his first, what would be now his permanent performance as Shaggy, Linda Cardellini as Velma, and Neil Fanning as the voice of Scooby-Doo. This was written by James Gunn, too, who of course would later go on to create the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. And Raja Gosnell directed this movie, and that should have been the red flag right there, that Raja Gosnell was the man who was attached to direct this. But, you know, the whole idea of this movie was actually much different than what it ended up becoming, because this was supposed to have a much darker tone to it, especially poking fun of the original series and kind of being like the Brady Bunch movie. And it was actually supposed to have sort of a PG-13/R rating to it. There was literally going to be scenes where Shaggy was said to be a stoner. There was a lot of marijuana references. There was also a lot of ideas that, you know, Velma and Daphne were lesbians. Like, it was really interesting to see how that would have played out. But of course, Warner Brothers said, nope, you can't do that. So you got to make a PG-rated film. And the cast has since joked about it for the longest time, that there were a lot of the original adult jokes still somewhere in the film and on deleted scenes and just anywhere in particular. I mean, the stuff is still out there. It's just unfortunately not in the final product, which really hurts the film in the long run, because unfortunately the movie is a really, really not great film. It's a film that's trying to have those little bit of the edges of making fun of itself, like the Brady Bunch movie. I mean, they take a shit on Scrappy-Doo a lot. Like, this movie hates Scrappy-Doo to the point where he turns out to be the film's villain, but that's cool. But unfortunately, what they do with him at the end, not cool. And it's just like we're really doing this with him? I mean, the movie has so many opportunities to actually be something. I mean, this has a good cast to it. Everybody's cast very well. That's probably the strongest thing about the movie, are the 4 leads. Freddie Prinze Jr., Sarah Michelle Gellar, Matthew Lillard, Linda Cardellini. I thought they all did a very good job of handling the roles that they were attached to. It's everything else, though, that really affects the film in the wrong way, because it feels like a film that's trying to be more edgier than it wants to be, but the studio is holding it back because they want a safe and marketable movie, because, heaven forbid, if we had a Batman Returns scenario again, even though people like Batman Returns, but the CG effects, too, are terrible as well. Like, Scooby-Doo does not look good with the CG. I mean, he looks terrible, and after all these years later, it still looks abysmal. I mean, it still looks incredibly bad. Like, it's amazing how bad this thing looks, because there's the opportunity that you can make to make a really good Scooby-Doo in CG, but not in this case. I mean, if you do something, I mean, Scoob came close to trying to perfect Scooby-Doo, but unfortunately that movie also has a lot of flaws to it too. But I'm sorry, I'd still rather take Scoob over this thing, right, easily. I know a lot of people like this movie. I know they have nostalgia feelings for it. I mean, they feel the same way that I kind of felt with the Flintstones movie back in '94. Like, it was also thrashed by critics when it came out, but there was at least more ambition to it, and there was more of the effort being put on the big screen. The script was just the problem with the film altogether. It's a mixture of the script, the studio interference, and the fact that Scooby-Doo looks pretty bad. The CG effects on him look really, really terrible, and he does not look like what we expect a live-action Scooby-Doo version to look like. I mean, you can make a better version of Scooby-Doo than this abomination that shows up on screen here. I mean, it's just a bad film. It's a really, really bad film, despite the efforts where you could feel like they were close to doing what they wanted to do in the beginning, because they have the people to make it work. They've got a good screenwriter. They've got a great cast to make these characters work, but there's just nothing there because the studio kept getting in the way. The script had to be forced down to being dumbed down to kids, and the effects look terrible. Even for 2002, you expect so much better than this, but unfortunately, this is just the way the film has to play out. I guess it worked in their favor because it was a big hit, and it led to a sequel, and maybe by then they could actually do what they wanted to do with this film, and they're not going to do that. sorry to give you a little bit of a spoiler for that movie, but we'll talk about that when we get to 2004. But Scooby-Doo.
Fritz, that's your job.
Welcome to the CIA.
From the best-selling thriller by Tom Clancy.
3 Russian scientists are missing. I need to know where they are.
It's Ryan! The bomb is in play!
They think it might be the Russians.
It wasn't the Russians!
Ben Affleck.
A neo-fascist bought an A-bomb on the black market.
Morgan Freeman.
It adds up. You just don't like what it adds up to.
Get me through to the president. Punch him off.
The Sum of All Fears, directed by Phil Robinson. Rated PG-13. Starts Friday, May 31st.
You know, I've praised the Jack Ryan movies beforehand with The Hunt for Red October, Clear and Present Danger, and Patriot Games. I still really like those ones a lot, and I even like Jack Ryan's Shadow Recruit, but this is the one that I don't like. You have an Austrian neo-Nazi who plans to trigger a nuclear war between the United States and Russia so that he can establish a fascist superstate in Europe. After the neo-Nazi scientists build a secret nuclear weapon that is detonated in Baltimore, and a rogue Russian officer paid off by the neo-Nazis attack a U.S. aircraft carrier, the world's superpowers are pushed close to the brink of war, and CIA analyst Jack Ryan, played by Affleck, is the only person who realizes that the Baltimore bomb was a black market weapon, not a Russian one. With the clock ticking, Ryan has to find a way to stop the impending nuclear war. Which, I mean, if you see the movie and you see the fact that the bomb goes off and nuclear war pretty much has already started at that point, but logic takes a big backwards turn in this particular movie, and that's one of the main reasons why I do not like this one as much. Not to say that Ben Affleck is a bad choice for Jack Ryan. I mean, Ben Affleck is more than proven that he could be a good actor. We just saw him in Changing Lanes not too long ago, but in this, it's not his fault the movie is bad. It's the script. The script, I think, is going a little bit too over the top. The fact that we actually see something big happen in this case, when something like Clear and Present Danger and Patriot Games and The Hunt for Red October, it's not as crazy as nuclear war actually happening like it happens in this movie. And you can pretty much, it's one of those ones where you can easily predict who's the real bad guy, who's working for who, and it's just like, the other movies did a very good job of at least hiding it or making it clear from the get-go who's clearly working for the bad guy. Like in Hunt for Red October, you know who the bad guy is. It's Sean Connery. I mean, in Patriot Games and Clear and Present Danger, they make it clear that, you don't really know for certain who is behind, who's working for who. And in this case, everyone you see, you can automatically figure out who's working for who, like who is, who's working for the good guys, who's working for the bad guys, and like, there's no mystery, there's no surprise to it. And I think the reason why they have that scene where the bomb goes off in this movie is just like to wake the audience up, because for the most part, this movie is really boring. I remember going to see this movie in the theaters, and honestly, that's the scene from the trailers where the bomb goes off. It was just like, okay, part of me's kind of interested to this. This was actually the first Jack Ryan movie I ever saw, and I'm glad I saw the other ones, because if I saw this movie as my first real introduction to this, I would have never wanted to see the other movies, honestly. But yeah, the movie just isn't entertaining. There's just nothing about it that's interesting. There's nothing about it that's really engaging or exciting. There's no mystery to it that works, and it just doesn't feel like a movie that really knew what they were trying to accomplish here. And I'm glad they turned the series around with the Chris Pine one that came out about over 10 years later, which I still think that's a really good one, directed by Kenneth Branagh. That's one that a lot of people have a lot of mixed opinions on. Some people really don't like it, but that's the one I really enjoyed. I really enjoyed that one a lot. And I've also enjoyed the John Krasinski show on Amazon Prime. I think that's a great show. And this is really the only Jack Ryan associated thing that I've really not been a fan of. And it's just that I don't feel like there's nothing really there. There's nothing really all that exciting or intriguing. And like I said, you can easily figure out who's working for who's the bad guy, and nothing about them is interesting whatsoever. It's just like, if you're gonna give us the bad guy right from the get-go, make him an interesting character. Make the situations more interesting and intriguing for the audience to get attached to. And unfortunately for me, it was just not there with this movie. I mean, it's one that I've tried to go back to several times, and it's just like, every time I try to watch it, it's just like, I just can't get anything from it, honestly. It's just like, nope, still feel the same way I did when I saw this in theaters, and, yeah, not much more to say about this particular film. So So yeah, that's pretty much all I got to say for you about this one. The Sum of All Fears, easily the worst Jack Ryan movie, easily the worst thing associated with Jack Ryan, hands down. All the other movies, all the TV show, watch those. Don't even bother with this. Like, this is one of those ones where it's just like, yeah, this is pretty bad, so.
Blast, that's why I hate flying. Anakin, do copy. This is Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Always a pleasure to meet a Jedi. Rated PG.
I think to kind of set this up, we should play the Simpsons clip.
I say Phantom Menace sucked more.
I say Attack of the Clones sucked more.
Fellas, you're both right. And when I say both right, I mean Carl was right. Attack of the Clones is worse. Like, this is the bottom of the frickin' barrel for Star Wars. You could say Rise of Skywalker is the worst of the worst, but I'm sorry. You people out there on the internet ruined that movie because you made The Last Jedi one of the most polarizing movies for no reason whatsoever, and you made Disney completely abandon their plan altogether for what they were going to do with that movie. I am convinced that Rise of Skywalker was made to try to appease the internet fanboys who got so pissed off at The Last Jedi. There is no way in hell that was the last movie that they intended for that. That was what the plan was for the last movie. There's no way that that was possible. Yeah, I'm going off on a tangent there, but I'm sorry. I'm still peeved off about that. Everyone says that Star Wars has been worse under Disney. No, Star Wars has been way better off than Disney. I'm sorry. I'm sorry if you can't admit that, but I'm sorry. The prequels are still terrible. Case in point, the worst of the prequels. Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. Yes, you thought Phantom Menace was bad? This one makes Phantom Menace look like the original Star Wars by comparison. Set 10 years after the events of the Phantom Menace, the galaxy is on the brink of civil war, led by a former Jedi named Count Dooku. Thousands of planetary systems threaten to secede from the Galactic Republic after Senator Padme, played once again by Natalie Portman, evades assassination. Jedi apprentice Anakin Skywalker, Hayden Christensen, becomes her protector, while his mentor, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Ewan McGregor, investigates the attempts on Padme's life. Soon, Anakin, Padme, and Obi-Wan witness the onset of a new threat to the galaxy, the Clone Wars. Now, yeah, this is, like I said, if you thought The Phantom Menace was a bad movie, Attack of the Clones completely says, oh, we can make it much worse for you, because as bad as Phantom Menace is, this one is an abomination. This is still the worst Star Wars movie, and it's not even close. I mean, like, it's so bad that The Simpsons, another Simpsons parody here, they parodied this to perfection just a few years after this movie came out.
Amendments? Regulatory agencies? What the fark butt?
Before the Galactic Senate votes, we shall call roll. Star System Abutan.
Yeah.
Star System Acroilius.
Agam.
Star System Trebulon Prime.
Whoa, Mama, finally some action.
Mr. Chairman, I propose a procedural amendment to Space Bill number 371.
You'll wait your turn.
Very well.
Trebulon Minor.
The decision is final. Tabled, this motion is. Or is it?
That sucked.
I mean, honestly, they did a pretty good job of telling you everything that's wrong with this movie, but look, yeah, Phantom Menace is a bad movie. It's a bad sequel. It's a movie that everyone was overhyped for. We all got excited for it, and then when we finally saw the film, we let it go at first, and then slowly but surely we came to the realization that, yeah, this is not very good, but you know what? There's still a lot more to admire about this movie, and at least something is happening compared to this movie. That's what makes this movie even worse than the Phantom Menace. I mean, this is a boring movie. I mean, it's just, I tried to stick with it. I tried to give it every opportunity that I can. But I'm sorry, there was nothing worth watching in this movie at all. At least in The Phantom Menace, you had cool aspects to it. You had a lot of things about it that looked pretty cool. I mean, the pod race scene. I mean, like they got in the Clerks animated series. It's just like, objection, Your Honor. The pod race was pretty cool. Like, that stuff. And then, like, some of the other things in there. It's just like, there's at least some things in Phantom Menace that I can at least appreciate what they were trying to do. But this, there's nothing here. I mean, the action is so poorly executed. The visuals look so choppy and so fake. The acting is very mediocre and bland. There's nothing about these characters that I give a shit about. Even the ones I like. I like Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I thought he'd be the best. I said he probably is the best thing about this movie. But the scenes where they're trying to create a love relationship between a love relationship. I'm so out of it right now. I'm getting more together. But they're trying to build a relationship between Padme and Anakin, and those are really, really cheesy scenes. And even for Star Wars, this is pathetic for how cheesy this is. And it's a long movie. And I'm sorry, I think The Simpsons pretty much said it best. Nobody gives a shit about trade negotiations in a Star Wars movie. Give us the action. Give us something that we actually want in the Star Wars movies. This entire movie was nothing but trade negotiations and a trade negotiation feud. Just like, who cares? Like, give us what we want in the Star Wars movie, for God's sakes. I mean, this is bad. This is really, really bad of a movie. I mean, I cannot believe that this movie insulted the intelligence of the fans. George Lucas basically insulted the intelligence of his audience. Like, and he says these movies are for kids. It's just like, because you know what kids really want to hear about? Trade negotiations. Like, nobody gives a crap about that. No kid wants to see that. Show them the stuff they want to see. Show them the action in space. You know, show them the lightsaber fight. Show them all the characters that we know and love. It's just like, don't show us this garbage. Like, it's asinine, and it still is the worst Star Wars movie. I'm sorry, I don't care what anybody says. Rise of Skywalker is not a great movie, but it kicks the crap out of anything that this piece of garbage tried to do. Like, this is a bad movie. This is an abysmal mess of a film. It's the worst of the prequels, bar none. Phantom Menace was at least trying, and didn't succeed for the most part, but it wasn't that big. It was a big disappointment, but it certainly pales in comparison to the abomination that Attack of the Clones is. And luckily, Revenge of the Sith will kind of change that around for the most part, but we'll get to that one in about 3 years' time when we get to Revenge of the Sith. But this, I'm sorry, I don't care what anybody says. Attack of the Clones is still the worst Star Wars movie. It may be the worst thing Star Wars has ever been associated with. And I've seen the holiday special. The holiday special was at least silly, over-the-top fun. It's a so bad it's good type of thing. But this, no, I can't defend this in any way, shape, or form. So, sorry. If you think Attack of the Clones is great, more power to you. But I'm sorry. This thing sucks. This thing really, really sucks.
Your fraternity forced you to join a sorority.
Yeah, very funny.
Would you?
Oh my god.
If you had to get sensitive.
Let's share.
Should you?
Oh, I'm addicted to porn. Pillow fight!
Okay, I think we just need to stop right there. I think you get the gist of what this movie is. A group of college boys who are dressed up as girls in order to prove their innocence for a crime they didn't commit from a fraternity. The trailer basically says it. If your fraternity is being forcing you to join a sorority, and you've got Barry Watson from Seventh Heaven, Michael Rosenbaum from Smallville, and Harlan Williams, because those three guys clearly are people that should be in college. And yeah, the rest of that trailer is pretty much jokes that you pretty much expect to come. And the sad thing about this whole thing is that this is directed by one of the guys who wrote for The Simpsons, and not the newer seasons of The Simpsons. The classic seasons of The Simpsons, the first 4 seasons of the show, Wally Wolodarski, and yeah, talk about a really, really bad film to direct on. I mean, luckily he's made much better choices since then, doing stuff like The Oblongs and being in a lot of Wes Anderson films. He wrote the critically underrated films, The Rocker, Monsters vs. Aliens. I mean, he's done a lot of better stuff than this film, and it's just a terrible movie. It's trying to be the Tootsie or Mrs. Doubtfire for the college circuit, and you know which direction it's going to go. You know exactly where they're going to take you. You know it's going to be that kind of a film that's trying to be the new Animal House. It even has 2 people from Animal House in it, Stephen Furst and John Vernon, and it's just like, why are you guys here, man? Like, what are you guys doing in this movie? What is anybody doing in this movie? And like I said, Barry Watson, Michael Rosenbaum, Harlan Williams. Harlan Williams was 40 years old when this movie came out. Michael Rosenbaum was 30, and Barry Watson was like in was closing in on 28 years old when this came out. And these guys are supposed to be in college. Like, that really should tell you everything that's wrong with the movie there, but the jokes aren't funny. I mean, maybe if Wally Wolodarski actually had a hand in the script, maybe he could have made it much funnier than it actually is. But no, everything about this movie is just bad. Like, you know how it's going to work out. The girls are going to find out what the boys are actually doing. There's going to be this third act breakup. Everything's going to go to pieces, and you're going to be bored by hell of it because you know exactly what the hell they're doing in this particular situation here. And it's like, what is the point? What is the reason why I'm here? Like, why am I watching this? Like, nothing about this makes any sense whatsoever, and everybody involved has much more talent and deserves a much better movie than this. This is a terrible film, unfunny, nothing about it works whatsoever. You can pretty much predict everything that's going to happen. It's a bad movie. It's a really, really bad movie, and sadly, this is not the worst cross-dressing movie we get in 2002. Wait until we get to Joanna Man, because that'll make this movie look like Tootsie by comparison. This will make this movie look like the equivalent to something like either Tootsie, Mrs. Doubtfire, or Some Like It Hot. I mean, Joanna Man is that bad of a movie, but we're not quite there yet. We still have a couple months to go before that. But, yeah, avoid Sorority Boys like the plague, please.
We gotta get out of here! What's going on?
The moon's breaking up. That's impossible.
In 2 days,
Why have you traveled through time?
I have a question answered. Unlock your imagination. Experience the magic. Time travel. Discover the mystery. And get ready for the greatest adventure through all time. The Time Machine. Rated PG-13. Starts this Friday.
So as I said, this is based off of H.G. Wells' classic novel, where you have scientist and inventor Alexander Hartigan, played by Guy Pearce. Is it Guy? Okay, it is Guy Pearce. I thought for a second it was Guy Ritchie, but no, it's Guy Pearce. He's determined to prove that time travel is possible. His determination is turned to desperation from a personal tragedy that now drives him wanting to change the past. Testing his theories with a time machine and his own invention, Hartigan is hurtled 800,000 years into the future, where he discovers that mankind has divided into the hunter and the hunted. And there is so much potential in this movie, but the film, if you've seen the movie, it gets pretty ridiculous pretty damn quick. Let's talk about that personal tragedy, because in the beginning of the movie, Guy Pearce's character gets engaged to Sienna Guillory, who you may know from the second Resident Evil movie. But so she gets shot the first time around, and so he basically decides, I'm going to do this with a time machine. I'm going to build a time machine, go back in time, and save her. And she does save her, but then as soon as she saves her, she literally gets run over by a horse. And it's supposed to be this dramatic moment, but I'm sorry, if you watch the clip in this movie where she gets run over by the horse, it is done so hilariously bad. I could not believe it. Like, I've watched this. The first time I ever saw this was actually when Film Brain did Bad Movie Beatdown's review of this, and he showed that scene. I thought, no, there's no way that could be a real scene. But nope, a scene that's supposed to be so tragic and so just downright depressing, he gets killed. It becomes extremely hilarious when you realize that this woman just died, and we just showed her a dummy literally falling to the ground. And, like, how can you not laugh at that? And the funny thing about it is that the problems with this movie can be seen right from the get-go, because shortly after that, Alexander realizes that every time he tries to save Emma, it will result in her death through other circumstances. Let me point out here that in this movie, he's only done it one other time. So, you know, it would be nice if we got to see the many times that he did try to do it, you know, if he tried to do it more than once. But no, they show it happening one time, and we're supposed to just accept that no matter what happens, she's going to die no matter what. And, yeah. Let that be the tone for the rest of the movie, because, man, this movie likes to change the plot whenever it needs to, because It just has to, because this movie is one of those films where, yeah, Simon Wells, who you know mostly as an animation director, he's done a lot of stuff for, An American Tail, Five Goes West, We're Back at Dinosaur Story, Balto, The Prince of Egypt, great animation director. His last film he directed was Mars Needs Moms, which I don't want to say it's his fault completely, because that was just a movie that was just dead on arrival, but ever since The Prince of Egypt, he fell off big time, and it's a shame, because the guy does have a lot of good animation credits to his name, and I think they only got him because he's the great-grandson of H.G. Wells. If I remember correctly, that's what I read. But yeah, the movie just gets out of hand really quickly, and because of this, because Simon Wells had never attempted live action before, he was basically suffering from extreme exhaustion, and Gore Verbinski had to come in and actually finish the last couple of days of shooting, which basically puts I know I keep saying basically, someone got on me for saying that, but I'm sorry, man, this is off-the-cuff stuff, and I have to say that to talk about what I'm doing here. Yeah, I say it a lot, but yeah, that's just kind of my thing. I've been trying to hold it down for a little bit, but as you can see, it's just kind of off-the-cuff stuff here. But, so Gore Verbinski had to come in and finish the movie, and because of that, the tone of the movie changes in the final 30 minutes of the movie. It goes from being a science fiction film to an action movie, and Guy Pearce's character essentially becomes an action hero in this for no reason whatsoever. And the way the movie changes what the time machine could do, what the time machine is capable of to fix this plot that they have, this plot change they have going on here, it just ruins the ebb and flow of the movie big time. But the film itself is just a mess on so many levels. Now, that's not to say that everything about this movie is bad. There are some brief flashes of promise here. Like, you have Jeremy Irons as the Morlock with some pretty good makeup work. I gotta say, the makeup work on him was actually really good for what they were trying to accomplish here. And he's really the best actor in the movie, because he has some of the strongest lines in the film. But then by the end, he's just the generic bad guy. And, like, the ways the time machine works makes no sense whatsoever. For example, they have this big climax of the movie where Guy Pearce has to turn on the time machine, and Jeremy Irons is strangling him a la Bart Simpson. And keep in mind that his hands are inside the time machine, and they establish that this time machine should be working at that point. And he should be falling and Jeremy Irons' character should be falling to the ground. And basically, like, there I go again. But essentially what happens here is that he turns on the time machine. Jeremy Irons' character just completely dies because time is moving so fast, but his hands are still inside the time machine. It's just like it makes no sense how this world works, and quite frankly, it doesn't feel like it wants to make any sense whatsoever. It's just kind of like, we're just going to do what we want here because we want to make an action movie here. And really, the directors they had for this, they had Steven Spielberg at one point attached to this, who could probably make this work. They had Brad Sirbeling do this, who was a decent director on some movies. Casper, Lemony Snicket's A Series of Unfortunate Events, but he left over creative differences. I mean, the possibility is there, but unfortunately, this movie really fails because it didn't know what kind of a tone it wants to set. And when you bring in Gore Verbinski to direct the second half of the final 30 minutes of the movie, it really does show how the film basically just falls apart from what it was trying to accomplish from the beginning. And it's a movie that really, I've come to realize that this film could have been so much better than it had any right to be, but it just doesn't. And unfortunately, I don't think anybody's really ever going to touch this again and try to redo this story the right way. Like, it's like if you get the right people involved and follow the story that H.G. Wells was trying to tell, you could have something really interesting here. But I think people are steering away from it because of how bad this movie turned out to be. And the end result of it is a mess of a film. So much potential really could have gone into it, but it doesn't know what kind of a tone it wants to set. It changes the tone towards the end of the movie when you bring in another director, and it just basically falls apart right from the get-go, and just like you have nothing really to look forward to when it's all said and done. And it's just, yeah, at times there are flashes of promise, but never enough for me to say that this is something you should check out. It's a major letdown on so many levels, and yeah, it's just not a good movie, unfortunately. So
August 2nd. Revolution Studios invites you to think action, think adventure. sing Turtle?
Am I not turtly enough for the Turtle Club? Turtle.
Dana Carvey.
Folks around here call me W.
Hoya! The master of disguise. Rated PG.
So something we should pretty much clear up here right from the get-go. There was a rumor that for the longest time there was the turtle scene, which was all over the marketing. They thought that this was going to be the big laugh-out-loud moment of the movie, but there was a belief that they actually filmed that on the day of the September 11th attacks. It happened right as September. The news came out that the World Trade Centers were attacked, and they were filming that day. They had a moment of silence, and Carvey was still in the turtle outfit during the moment of silence, and there was a belief that happened on September 11th, but that turned out to be a rumor. And when you really think about it, the timing was off on that because, first of all, September 11th, on September 11th, the Twin Towers were attacked around between 8 and 9 o'clock in the morning, which means that on the West Coast in Hollywood, it would have been probably 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning. So unless they decided to shoot early that morning for some odd reason, like they wanted to get, like they thought that they needed to film this scene early in the morning, yeah, you could pretty much figure out that was not meant to be true. And the director even confirmed that did happen. However, it took place the weeks after the attack. So it basically happened it's after the September 11th attacks, weeks after the attack. So it didn't happen on the day that it happened, which kind of takes away some of the jokes I was going to put in here because, yeah, when you see the Turtle Club all over the marketing for this, and you hear the story about the fact that this was originally supposed to shot on September 11th, like, the comedy should be there for you to really get some laughs out of it, but just like the rest of this movie, comedy is not a factor in here because, my God, this is one of the worst comedies of the year. I would say the worst comedy of the year, but wait until we get to 2 weeks later. Wait until we get to the movie that Eddie Murphy decided to do before we get to that, because that one is much, much worse. But this ain't any better. I mean, I feel so bad for Dana Carvey. I mean, the guy can be extremely funny when you give him the right stuff to do, but in this, it really does feel like Adam Sandler forced him to do this movie. The plot, I think you could pretty much get from the gist of it here. It's about a man who's trained to become a master of disguise by his grandfather when a master criminal kidnaps his father. And, I mean, this movie is about as despicable in its we don't give a fuckness as you could get. I mean, you can watch this movie and see that nobody cared about what they were doing. And they were all just cashing in a paycheck. It's just a lackluster film on so many levels. It wasn't funny. It wasn't clever. It's just a mess of a movie, a sloppy mess of a film that, you know, you understand why Dana Carvey hasn't done another leading role since this movie. I mean, this was supposed to be his big return after so many years of not making a leading role in the film. I think the last film he actually did before this was Clean Slate, which was a far better movie by comparison, but this... Yeah, this was a rough sit through. I mean, you want to know what the crazy thing about this is? This thing actually does have one good running gag, and it involves, of all things, a fart joke. A fart joke and Data from Star Trek, Brent Spiner, who plays the villain. And it's the one thing in the movie that I can honestly say is funny because it just comes out of nowhere. You don't really expect anything from it, and like all of a sudden there it is. Like it surprisingly is funny, like, not haha funny, but it's still like the one moment in the movie where it's just like, oh my God, I actually got a laugh out of that. Like, it's like that was the one thing they really cared about. But the movie is lazy too. Like, the movie, I mean, it's just under 80 minutes. It says 80 minutes long, but the real movie is only an hour long, and there's 15 minutes worth of stuff in the credits. Pointless bloopers, scenes that don't make a whole lot of sense. The movie is over by the 65-minute mark, and there's no reason why you should be sitting in the theater at this point. Like, it baffles me how bad this movie is. Like, it really, really baffles me how this movie ended up being as bad as it was. And surprisingly, it's not the worst comedy of the year. Like I said, we've still got 2 weeks' time before we get to the true worst comedy of the year. One of the worst movies I've ever seen.
adventures of Pluto Nash.
Welcome to Take These Hillarys. We appreciate you helping us out.
Rated PG-13.
Hillary Clinton dollars. That will never get dated. Let that joke set the tone for the movie you're about to watch. Or maybe hear about, because you should not watch this movie. Let me tell you something. I've been going to movies at the movie theater for about 7 years at this point. The Adventures of Pluto Nash was probably the first movie I ever truly walked out of a movie theater saying that I absolutely hated on a number of different levels. I despise this movie on so many levels, and once you see the film, you probably will think the same thing. I mean, this is a rough movie, and let's just put it this way. Actually, before we do that, let's just run down the plot real quick. After his successful nightclub is blown to flaming bits, Pluto, played by Eddie Murphy, and his band travel across the moon looking for clues as to who is behind the arson. Along with Bruno, played by Randy Quaid, and Dina, played by Rosario Dawson, Pluto visits a seedy motel, his secret hideout, and the casino of the most powerful man on the moon, searching for the evildoer, only to find out the destruction of his club may have been his own fault. And like I said, this was really the first movie I ever saw in a theater where I honestly thought it was absolute garbage. I mean, I saw Scooby-Doo that same summer in a theater. This made Scooby-Doo look like Citizen Kane. I'm not even kidding. This is a bad movie. Eddie Murphy has made some really bad movies in his career, but even so, this is at the bottom of the barrel. I mean, Lorber is a bad movie, but at least it has some form of quality to it, because you have Rick Baker doing the same special effects he did with The Nutty Professor, and those were really great. Too bad the rest of the movie was complete garbage. I mean, that at least I could say is positive for Norbert, but this is just a mess. Let me put it this way. This movie has been sitting in development hell for 20 years before Warner Brothers finally decided to agree to 20 years. You would think that within 20 years, somebody would have looked at the script and go, maybe we should change this around to fit modern times, but nope. This movie is too lazy to even do that. They took a script clearly from the 1980s and tried to make it for 2002. There are jokes that are so dated, and just like I said before, jokes that will eventually become dated. They didn't even bother to change any of the script at all. It's like, this is the first movie this is the movie that's the first example of a studio putting in way too much money in what they thought was going to be the next big hit franchise. I mean, they put $100 million to this movie. I mean, somebody at Warner Bros. Thought this was worthy of $100 million. I mean, you gotta hope that the dude who greenlit either got fired or completely was burned at the stake in particular. But then again, now that I realize that Warner Brothers has probably made bigger movies that have had this budget since then that have been much worse. But that's for another time. You know how much of that $100 million they made back? $7 million. $7 million. That's the total gross that this movie made, and that was worldwide. This thing didn't even cross $5 million domestically. This is the quintessential example of a financial flop. And I don't think any other parody could have ever painted the perfect picture of how the studio must have felt than the Robot Chicken bit. Where they talk about this the Monday after Pluto Nash came out, and everybody in the studio is just like completely on the cut, is finding ways to kill themselves because of how much of a disaster this movie is. Which, unfortunately, I can't show it here because good old YouTube and their copyright issues. So yeah, if you want to go look for it, I beg you to go look for it because it's more than worth it just to see how a perfect parody of that could honestly be a real life scenario of what actually happened at Warner Brothers the Monday after this movie came out. That's what it feels like when you've wasted money on a movie that nobody was going to watch. I mean, this was unprecedented back then for how bad this movie performed. And this was Eddie Murphy at his absolute worst. And honestly, that's saying a whole lot. This whole movie is a mess. It's a mess of a film. It's not funny. It's not clever. This was a script that was sitting on numerous shelves in Hollywood for decades. And it shows. There was not a single laugh in this entire movie. There's not one bit of anything clever. No impressive visuals. No good acting. A stupid twist that you could see coming a mile away. I mean, the plot I just summed down for you pretty much tells you what the plot of the movie, what the twist is, if you look real closely into it. This was just a gigantic mess of stupidity. Lack of creativity or enjoyment. It just didn't work. It was the absolute worst movie released in 2002. One of the worst movies I've ever seen. This movie made The Master of Disguise look better by comparison. That's how bad this movie is. So, I guess you can obviously know what I'm about to tell you, and that is avoid the Adventures of Pluto Nash like the plague.